the dichotomy between the violent and the non-violent factions now, because it sways so much within the yellow vest?
Well, first of all, it's very convenient for the government in place to have images of such violent uproar in the streets, because they think it can change the majority's opinion. They think it can bend the reality towards their own control on the policies. But in overall, it's a very tricky question, because you have to understand that some policemen can actually lose their, can explode, and just through the pressure can be very violent. But some of them actually were fighting. There was an infighting in the police. I mean, you have another image which is very interesting, which is this, these military trucks from the gendarmerie on the front lines towards the Élysée, and you have a guy inside the truck who actually pushed the button for the poison gas. I mean, not poison gas, but you could say it's a kind of gas that can bring about certain symptoms that are really can really destroy your health on long term. So it's a very dangerous one. And they push the button for about a few seconds, and you can see the images. And then suddenly a journalist comes and say, "What did you do? I mean, what is this? What is this gas exactly?" And one of the guy from the gendarmerie actually started to have an issue with the person inside the truck to prevent him from using it. You have many other images of policemen fighting each other, and under the pressure, you can imagine that these people are also human beings, and they don't know exactly what to do anymore, because the ministry is using them as tools. And many times, whenever they have an order coming from the prefecture or the central command, they actually don't know what is going to be the consequence of this order, because you have sometimes a few hundred meters away exactly the same order being given to contract the demonstrations. That means to close the doors, to close all the issues, and then the violence starts. So sometimes it happens like this. Sometimes it happens because some policeman starts the fight, and sometimes it's also, you have to imagine, you have some elements who are ultra violent and who just come in just to do this. So I'm personally, it's very difficult to see what kind of result it can bring to just have violent demonstrations. I don't think personally that it will change anything if we go in this direction. We have seen it many times. It doesn't really change the situation. It doesn't really change things. Especially, I mean, you can look at Libya. You can look at other places. It never happened to be positive next. So it doesn't mean at the same time that we can say, okay, comparing to the violence that is being given by the banking syndicate on a daily basis, of course you can compare this violence and say, I mean, the violence is on their side. Actually, it's not on our side. What we've seen in the streets is nothing comparable to the destruction of hundreds of thousands of lives on this country. So that's why it's a tricky question. I have no,
and I'm happy you called it out very square and very fair, because yes, there are very violent elements, and also, you know, you have to cover the truth and you have to cover all the details. There are violent people there. There's also a lot of people, because I had a sign on my back that said "No parlez-vous français, only anglais," and I'm American here, and I had so many people coming up to me saying, "Hey, the violence does not define us. We're not those violent people. We keep trying to tell them to stop." And there's a very big proportionate faction that is very nonviolent. Now, this is not tear gas that you're talking about here.
It's a
clarify this again, because this is a very important point. This is not tear gas. Is this the gas that the government kind of rigged up in their buildings, like a chemical weapon, in case the Yellow Vests take over the government buildings that they were going to use? Or is this, tell us more about this, because this is shocking. Absolutely
The
shocking.
There's an official statement that was actually given out to the press by the Central Command of the police, and they acknowledge the use of this gas, but they don't say what is in this gas, and nobody knows exactly what is in this gas. They used it. They
What is
used
it? What
it.
is it called? What did they call it?
There's no name
Yeah.
for it. It's a it's a chemical mix that we never saw before used in the streets. It's really powerful. It's a very dense tear gas that seems to be mixed up with some other chemical mixture. I don't know exactly what, but the symptoms that are being given by some of the whistleblowers in the police, I mean, somehow, because we are not sure it was actually the case, but many details came out through the press and not the social media, but the press. So it means it's a bit more serious, I would say, because usually they don't say such things if they don't know for sure. And this time, what we know from the symptoms is that it can actually bring about severe health problems in, to some persons. You can imagine that for the tear gas, it's already very difficult to imagine. I mean, you have some people who have real problems because of the tear gas. We have all different kinds of people who said that after a day during these demonstrations, they couldn't breathe for an entire week, basically. So it can depend on certain people who are more fragile, but you can imagine if you go in the streets to defend some rights, and basically you you can use a life for this. It's insane. And there's almost nothing. It's exactly as you said for the United States. In France here, there's almost nothing discussed around these issues because it always takes a lot of time, a few weeks before such issues actually come out. It's the way we push through social media, and at some point they are obliged to do it, to talk about it because so many million people are talking about it.
Wow, I mean, absolutely insane. I mean, I was there just for the few times I'm there. I'm having problems breathing, but that's just normal tear gas. Normal tear gas has a detrimental effect, and for them to be using it in the city where children play, where older people live, they just indiscriminately. There's some protests. They're just standing there. Boom, 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 boom. Obviously, there's many different elements here. That's what I've seen, and so many people affected by it. But I mean, this is not going away. I mean, Macron, he really was embarrassed the last few days with him on the ski slope, literally with his wine, smiling with his wife, skiing, looking like a little snow bunny, and then and then literally Paris is on fire. Now he's talking about closing down the Champs-Élysées. I can't say that. I apologize. I'm sorry for my lack of French. But he's talking about shutting down the main road. How do you see things unfolding this week and also in the future from here?
Well, it's impossible to see through the crystal ball right now. As I said many times, many weeks ago, there's no way you can actually see through what's going to come in the next weeks. It's always different. There's always something different that comes out. For example, today, just to tell you, there's a very big story breaking out because there is an indictment that was just pronounced for Alexander Benalla, who was the bodyguard of Macron for the last several years, because he lied to the Senate. And there's a real huge pile of different stories on this guy concerning certain, I mean, very nefarious and very strange things surrounding Macron's taking in charge his own security, especially because this guy is not a policeman. He's coming from a private company. So there are certain rights that were given to him against the law, and today there's a huge attack on this guy. But the real attack is actually on Macron. So there is an infighting inside the military, the police, certain networks in the policies. I mean, in the political parties, it's a very it's a very strange situation. There's a balance coming in and there. You don't know what's going to come next. Basically, every day there's a new story coming to attack Macron, or basically trying to attack to attack the Yellow Vests also through new stories like anti-Semitic stories, and everything is being done right now. But Macron is a professional of seduction and is a wizard. In a sense, he's a wizard trained by the world of finance. He's a pathological liar, but he's also very well trained into manipulation techniques. I mean, when he was a banker, he used to invent new stories. It's called equity stories. When you are a banker, especially in this higher level of banking, you have to actually know certain techniques to to bend the reality in order to have your contract signed. And Macron is very well trained on this question. So everything he says, you have to take it, 2 steps away. You have to see. Maybe he's an idiot, but he has certain skills. And when you see him going to ski, basically, you can't say it's a mistake or something like that. That's what everybody says, that it's a mistake of communication. When you have people like in poverty, more than 9 million people in poverty in France, and you have all these questions being brought on the table with the Yellow Vest, he knows that on Saturday it's going to be wild, and he goes skiing, But imagine, you have some people who are taking decisions, they know exactly what is going to be the response on the ground. So sometimes he wants to trigger some form of hate also. It's somehow calculated in order to push for another form of narrative. So that's why it's very tricky, it's very difficult to judge things on a daily basis. We always have to take a few steps back and try to read in a different way. Essentially, from my standpoint, that's what I've learned through these last weeks, because there is no logical sense to what's going on right now.
Absolutely. It's terrifying. It's absolutely insane. I have never seen such a protest with such power, with such just continuance for such long. Something's going to happen. Something inevitable will be revolutionary. Something's going to be there's going to be a major event that's going to crescendo.
For sure,
that's how I see it.
It's becoming very dangerous for Macron right now, because the use of military on its own people can become the event that would basically, it could bring him down in some way, because probably some higher level officials in the military won't agree with this kind of behavior. And not just, I've been talking to some people in the military. They say, we can't say what we think, but you know what we think, because we think the same. And they basically can't say much, but they usually don't hide exactly what they have in their minds. That means they won't be a tool. They can't say anything, they can't do anything against the orders, and that's basically, that's why I'm saying it could be the limit. It could be the way Macron is going to go down, because it's a really stupid way to handle the protests, even though it's so violent and so on. It's the most stupid thing to do right now is to bring troops on the ground for this, especially. That's really crazy.
Yeah, and create no-go zones on the main area of Paris. That's what I'm hearing. That's a whole nother insane part. That's going to be a major street battle that's going to unfold for that specific main road. I mean, it's pretty much it's like the Times Square. I mean, Times Square is crap. The Champs-Élysées is actually very nice, but there's going to be a major battle for that specific area. But I mean, there's so much information: the chemical weapon use, the troops being used. That again, I didn't even know about myself, and I'm following this story. I had no idea about this. So, I mean, absolutely, thank you. Is there anything else that we're not getting from the mainstream media? Because obviously, the mainstream media is slandering and attacking you guys as much as they can on every level that they can. Again, the mainstream media is pretty much with the state. It's with the government. It's with the bankers. It's pretty evident by now. Is there anything that we're not getting that we should know about the Yellow Vest movement that, of course, people don't know about?
No, I can say many things that I already said. I mean, we have to go back to the simplest questions that we raised from the beginning, which is poverty is becoming viral. It's an impossible situation for many people working. It's something that this government has been actually destroying more and more. It's not about Macron, it's about the last 30 years, but now it's basically we have reached through, I mean, we have crossed the line. It's that's not what, I mean, that's something very simple to say, basically. The question is now, we don't trust the political parties in place, most of the institutions that have been trying to protect us. Most of the time, the presidential campaigns were completely it was completely rigged from the beginning, and we can prove that by many things that happened during this last campaign. Basically, that Macron received 7 million euros through a couple of thousand people. You know, this is the way they basically rigged the elections, and mainly coming from people living outside France. That means, especially when he went to the city of London, he raised a lot of money. When he went to New York, he raised a lot of money. When he went to Switzerland, I mean, not Switzerland, but and whenever he went out of the country, or also in Lebanon, in other countries, he raised a lot of money. And in France, it was essentially only two-thirds of the population gave him something. So that's when you see that this election was a total, it was rigged from the beginning. This guy is absolutely not representative of the population, and everything he's doing is a lie, is a pathological liar. Everything he has been doing from the beginning is exactly the opposite of what he said he wouldn't touch. Like the pensions, I mean, you have this new discussion right now, basically pushing for a discussion on the cost of healthcare and the health system for the elderly. And they just released the poll coming from Belgium, nothing to do with France. And this poll was actually done back in 2014, and it says basically that in order to save money in public spending, 37% of the population approve the cancellation of costly treatments that prolongs the life of the 85 plus old people. Do you imagine? And they are pushing for that right now on the news, while this poll was actually done in 2014. So that's what they are preparing the ground for. And it's the same with this climate change discussion. I have my own personal opinion on this, because what I've seen right now is that every Saturday you have new demonstration to save the climate, and they're trying to, what we call in France, to drown the fish. You know, when you want to destroy something, you drown the fish. That's exactly what's happening right now. They are calling for huge climate change actions every Saturday in order to change the narrative and say, you know, that's what we are really saying right now, is that people want to save the climate and so on and so forth. So that's why.
And is this the government, or is this other
it's
protesters?
Other protesters, but we have seen many elected officials from Macron's majority inside this demonstration. So it has nothing to do with the yellow vest, and it's changing the narrative. It's changing the issues, the real issues that we have been bringing from the beginning. I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just saying that it's a crazy thing to do right now when you have an actual. I mean, from the beginning, the yellow vests had very specific issues to bring on the table concerning the enslavement of the country through, especially the EU, which is forbidding France from having its own credit system, but also the same thing with the poverty will never be fought. I mean, we are never going to get anything done on these questions of poverty if you have supranational institutions giving orders to our government. So it has nothing to do with, I mean, it has been very clear from the beginning that the majority of the yellow vests knows that, especially when you think it's not right, it's not left, it's everything together, and it's above that also. And all these people were agreeing on these questions, but it's right now not anymore the discussion on TV shows. They don't want this thing to be brought up on the TV show. So that's why they're changing the narratives into different directions.
And that's why I want to thank you so much for your time. I know you're incredibly busy, so it means the world to me that you're able to come here and share this important information. I mean, I'm very happy you brought up, I mean, you call it supranationals. We just call them globalists. And I'm happy you brought up how Macron went to all the places all around the world to bring in the majority of his money. As we know, the mainstream media propped him up, especially in France. They kind of put him up on a pedestal as the next savior of Europe. In reality, he's the next, the opposite is actually happening here. One thing you said to me that also stuck out to me was that poverty is becoming viral, because as we discussed before, the conditions that created this protest, that created the Yellow Vest movement, are still there. They're like the big fault lines that create earthquakes. Mm-hmm. They're not going away. They're a big foundation now, and unless those foundations are dealt with, maybe it will be the Yellow Vest, maybe it will be another protest, but these conditions are creating this conflict, and it's only going to get crazier from here because the state's response is just absolutely asinine, and it's all for power and control. That's in my take. Bob, unless you have anything else to say, cut me off, but if not, thank you so much for sharing this information. And guys, understand, this is so important. Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
No, I would have a lot of things to say, but I think it's wrapping everything up. It's good.
Yeah, I mean, you just nailed it on the point. So many important points. Again, you guys are more important than ever. YouTube and Facebook, big social media, they don't like us talking about this. The bigger institutions don't want you getting any ideas. That's why you're more important than ever in sharing this video, sharing this information. Let me know what you guys think, what I could do better in the comment section below. I work for you with your donations. Without you supporting us on wearechange.org/donate, I wouldn't be here, and I want to thank you. I want to thank you, Bob, for allowing us to have this important information download about a critically important event that sadly a lot of people aren't aware of because of just the mainstream media censorship. That's why we're here. Thank you again so much for watching. Stay tuned for more.